really, really important for the archaeology to actually understand a bit about the geology that's going on here. I mean, we're right next to Germany Beck now. Obviously, that's Germany Beck of today. But there are a number of features to the Beck here, geological features that the Beck runs through, that might actually make this a very useful place to try and understand the battlefield from. The really important things that help to form the landscape that we see and the landscape in which the Battle of 1066 took place here are all formed by the action of glaciers. In this area you've had a big glacier coming down what's the Vale of York today, pushing in front of it great mounds of stuff, and it reaches a point at Escrick, just a few miles south of us. It reaches that point and it goes no further. And then it starts to recede again as it melts, as the climate changes. But then it starts to come back down south again and piles up a new moraine across where York is, on the way towards Tadcaster. So you've got two moraines running east-west across the Vale of York. And where we are here, we're sat right in the middle of those two moraines on a funny little moraine running north-south. And at one time there was a great pile of water just after the glaciers have gone. There's a big lake that forms at the top of what's now Germany Beck. Yes. Eventually that lake fills up and the water's got to go somewhere, and so it spills over the moraine down into the River Ouse. So two things: a very long story, the geology, the way that the landscape's developed here over thousands of years, and then seeing whether or not we can identify within that long story a specific point. That's the trick, that's the tricky bit. We'll also open a couple of trenches to try and understand an area a little bit further up the Beck. And there we're going to try and investigate the relationship between the Beck and the peaty deposits that are found further up.
What we have here, an interesting feature, we have a layer of peat down here which is going down towards the Beck, which is over there, and we've put in two trenches, one here and one a bit higher up, to identify where the peat starts.
In this test pit we can see a number of different things. I mean, the most obvious thing straight away that everyone spots really is that there's a land drain in there. That's probably Victorian. There are three important layers in here so far that we've uncovered. The top layer is about 30 centimetres of soil, but right. It's got a lot of clay in it.
This is where you put the flags in?
Exactly, yeah.
Layers, is it? Yeah,
so we put flags in to try and define the layers. You then hit a grey clay, but this grey is really interesting because the grey is kind of as alluvium. So this really is the sort of stuff that's getting left behind
from
by
the river,
exactly
the flooding or whatever.
It's flooding. Yeah. Below that alluvium, we get into a really dark layer, and what we've got there is peat. So what's happened is you've got a fairly long period of stable, marshy, boggy conditions, followed by a period of flooding, basically. So it's got flooded for a while, and then eventually you have a build-up of soil over the top of that. So actually somewhere we're on the boundary between the peat bog and the flooding, and the bit up there that wasn't getting flooded and never formed a peat bog.
I've been using auger to try and find out where the two layers meet, and the first hole was there, which is just below the surface. We have the peat and the gravel, the clay and the gravel just below the surface. This one here, about 3 meters away, full depth of the auger is just pure soil and peat. Halfway between the two is this layer here where we have the clay, and then the peat and the soil is starting around this layer, so halfway. So we can say this is the line where the two start to merge, and the peat layer builds up from that layer down towards the river.
We're just into it there, and we've dug through it, and then a nice sandy layer, and then at the bottom again stones. But the ones I've just picked up in the last few minutes have been smaller pebbles than the big ones there.
Yeah, so we're really starting to...
So it's layers and layers.
Yeah, and funny enough, as archaeologists, we're starting to be much more geoarchaeologists here. The horizon of human activity here really does appear to be the top 20 centimetres. Just that brown soil, everything, all the action of the world since about 12,000 BC. Below that you can see it goes much more orange. And within that orange layer, towards the bottom of it, there's a separate layer that is got a lot of cobbles in it. And then you can see where we've extended the trench downwards a bit. Just below the cobbles you get a change and you get much more pure sand.
And below that it looks like clay again, but We think at the bottom we're going to find some charcoal.
There are layers that are predominantly cobble.
Right.
And that layer that's predominantly cobble is the thing that's left a good crossing point across the river. So there we have it, a classic glacial cobble, a feature of large areas of the Vale of York, sometimes forming layers that can be useful to us, sometimes forming layers that can confuse archaeologists.